Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration of the Autotune software. Now, the company that made the one I use, because various people make it, is made by Antares. Now, I like this one. I think it's the best. It's the original one. It's the one that was used on the Cher track, Believe, back in 1998. It's one that's used by a lot of artists. T-Pain, the American rapper, uses this. So do Daft Punk and many R&B singers. So it's made by Antares. They make several different versions. So I'm just going to quickly open up the different plugins that they do. They do this one here, which is called Autotune Pro. And then they do this next one called Autotune Artist. And finally, they do Autotune EFX. Now, if I just bring up quickly the browser, the Autotune Pro you'll see here is $399. Autotune Artist is $299, and Autotune EFX Plus is $199. On the website, the Antares website, they've got this comparison showing you what the key differences are between them with this table down here at the bottom. So you can have a little scroll through these at your leisure. But there's just a few key little differences here. So let me get rid of these, and then I can just quickly jump into this demonstration. Now, basically, although Autotune does what it says on the tin, it actually fixes sharp or flat notes and it puts your voice perfectly into tune, and it does a great job of that. A lot of people use it for that, but ironically, more people these days use it for an effects plugin, like what people like to call the Cher effect or the T-Pain effect, with this hard tuning robotic sound. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on for this brief tutorial, just so I can give you a bit of science behind this plugin, because a lot of people don't use it right, because a lot of it is down to the way you sing to give Autotune something to do, so you get that robotic step-in effect. Okay, so I've got a few audio files here that I've pre-recorded, nothing special, just me singing a couple of scales and a few random bits, so I can demonstrate the correct way of using this plugin if you want to get the Cher or the T-Pain effect with that hard step-in robotic sound. Now, this retune speed here, if you've got this set to minimum, Autotune is not going to be doing anything at all. It's just going to basically leave it as is. Whereas if you turn it to maximum, it's going to be on overdrive. It's going to basically create hard steps between the sung notes, and that's basically how you get the T-Pain effect with that robotic sound. You can put it about halfway, and when it's halfway, Autotune will gradually do a slight glissando into and out of the note, so it's not quite so obvious. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to solo off this track and let you have a listen to this. This is nothing special, it's just me singing a scale in A major over 1 octave, so just have a quick listen. La 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 la. Okay, so nothing special, just a scale. Now I'm just going to turn Auto-Tune on so you can have a listen. Now you're not going to notice any difference here, but what I want you to do is look at the notes on the bottom, and you'll see it start on A and finish on A, and it will go through the notes of the A major scale. So here we go. La 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 la. Now, the reason Autotune didn't make any difference, even though I've got the retune speed on maximum, and you didn't get that T-Pain effect, is because I sung that scale perfectly, and there's nothing for Autotune to do, because every note was sung perfectly in tune, and there was no glissando. So basically, I'm singing it in steps. I'm singing la 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 la, rather than la, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to turn this off, close that one, and come up here to this top track where there's a few more examples, and I'm going to open the Autotune plugin for this. Now what I want you to listen to is this, because what I do this time, I sing a scale in G major, but instead of singing it stepped like a la 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 la, I sing it as a glissando. Have a listen. La. A little bit strange, I know, but let me turn Autotune on, and it's on maximum overdrive here. Now have a listen. La. So you can hear what it's doing. Now, if I just sort of put that back to the beginning and turn the retune speed about halfway, have a listen now. La. It's a little bit more subtle, and then back to maximum. La. Okay, I'm just going to turn that off for the next example. La. Which was a little bit quicker. Let me turn Autotune on for that. La. And again, if I put the retune speed about halfway, then Autotune is going to basically put in a little bit of a glissando into the note and out of it, so you haven't got such an abrupt change. La. So that sounds a little bit more natural, but back on maximum overdrive, and you have La. And then turning Autotune off. La. Okay, so let me just play you this next bit here. You'll probably recognize this Black Eyed Peas song. I'm going to play it with no Autotune. I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. Okay, now I'm going to turn Autotune on. And what you're going to be listening for here is the bits towards the end, especially around here. Good night. As I sing down, as I sing the word night, I'm singing night. I'm kind of stepping down these bits. That tonight's gonna be a good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. So it's those, when I say the word night at the end, that's what you want to be listening for now. I'm going to turn Autotune on. I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring this across here to this section. Good. There, let me just bring that to about there, just so I can isolate this section. So without Autotune. Good night. Good night. Good night. And then with. Good night. Good night. Good night. So you can quite clearly hear what Autotune is doing. So let me just bring this to the next one, because here, when I sing the word night, I am actually stepping down a little bit. Good night. You can hear there that I'm saying night, da da da, la la la. I'm stepping down into it. Whereas for this next version, instead of singing the la la la, I'm glissandoing down. So I'm doing it la. Good night. Good night. As opposed to good night. Now with this one, that does work with Autotune, as you can hear. Good night. Good night. And without. Good night. So there's still a little bit of glissando wavering, even though I am stepping down into that word night. And because there's still a little bit there, it's giving Autotune something to do. So you still are getting some of that effect. Good night. However, with this one. Good night. If I just turn Autotune off for a second. Good night. You can hear that I'm glissandoing down into it rather than stepping down. Good night. And again at the end here. Good night. Now, if I just isolate this section here. Good night. And then turn Autotune on. Good night. Good night. Good night. You can hear that's a little bit more exaggerated than this version. Good night. So I'm just going to play this one. And this is with Autotune off to start with. I'm going to start it about halfway through. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. And then I'm going to turn Autotune on. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. And again, the whole thing from the beginning here. I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. And the next one. I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. So as you can hear, if you intend to use this for that T-Pain effect, put in a lot of glisses, a lot of glissandos. If you think Frank Sinatra, he used to glissando up to notes. If you think of start spreading the news, you've got that start spreading the news. Frank wouldn't hit the note bang on to start. So instead of singing start spreading, he would be start spreading. So if you put in a lot of glisses between your sung notes, then you're going to get a much more robotic effect. So there it is. That's the Antares Autotune plugin. Like I said, it does a great job of pitch correction, but more people use it for this effect.